So it's Pride Month, and I thought I'd talk about Pride things while I wash my makeup off because I don't want to wear this anymore. So the first thing I do is I just use some coconut oil to like melt the makeup. Sometimes I don't do this if I don't have a lot on, but I don't know. I hate like having little clumps of mascara left on my eyelashes. So, if you don't already know, I identify as genderqueer, and I use gender neutral pronouns, so that's they, them, usually, or if you're feeling frisky, like Z works too, but even I have trouble conjugating that one, like, on the fly in conversation, so I usually don't bother with it. And I was assigned female at birth, which, I don't know, maybe you could tell, but even when I was a kid, I had this sort of feeling that the word woman would never apply to me. Like, I had this feeling, I think I even said it to someone once, like, I don't know, girl is okay. Girl somehow seemed less gendered than woman, to me at least. But I was just like, God, I just felt like I'll always be a girl. I'll never be able to be a woman. And I didn't have the language for it, obviously. But when I learned about people who identified as like gender neutral or it's French, fuck. As gender neutral, I was like, oh. And I learned about trans people in college, and for a moment thought I might be trans, but I read a lot of like blogs and watched a lot of videos about being a trans man, and that didn't really seem to fit either until I found a blog by someone who was like, yeah, I've transitioned to being neutral. So this person had been on a very low dose of tea for a long time, and hello, I'm back. I don't know, it was just like really eye-opening. And this was in college. I was doing a lot of this sort of self-exploration at the time. I'm using a micellar water to get the coconut oil off. Sometimes, like I said, I skip the coconut oil and just go straight to micellar water, but I find that with the coconut oil I have to do way less like scrubbing and rubbing, which is nice. Anyway, so that's my like gender identity. As far as sexuality goes, I'm honestly still kind of working on it. Mostly because I'm in a committed relationship. I've been with the same person for 8 years. And we love each other, obviously. But, like, all through high school, my high school was a pretty homophobic place. Especially for, like, lesbians or bi women. I don't know. It was somehow more acceptable to be a man and gay than it was to be female or like female seeming and gay. So I kind of suspected that I had crushes on friends, but it was never an option, basically. So I never really thought about it. And then my high school relationship ended, and I went to college, and I was single for about half a year, and then I met my current partner, and we've been together ever since. And while I've been in that relationship, I've sort of figured out what it is I am, and the full set of labels that I like to use is pan-romantic demisexual, which... Hold on, let me rinse my face. Oh shit, that does not taste good. Okay, so after micellar water, I do one or two things. If I've used a lot of makeup that day, I'll use like my Pacifica face wash, or I have a Clinique soap bar here from before I started using cruelty-free stuff. Or I use Glossier Milky Jelly Cleanser, which is super nice and like mild. So I'm going to use that. What was I saying? Alright, so honestly, most of the time, if I'm ever talking about it and I want to use a shorthand, I just say I'm pan or I'm bi. Like, in potential romantic partners, gender doesn't matter. Gender doesn't really matter. But that being said, I also really don't have a very high, like, sex drive. I'm only sexually attracted to people after I form an emotional connection with them. I'm going to use my Vanity Planet Spin for Perfect Skin, I think this is. I just sort of do this for half a second. I don't do it a lot unless I've been wearing a ton of makeup that day. I have to do this over the sink. Okay. Blah. Anyway, so demisexual just means you don't really feel a sexual attraction to someone unless you're like emotionally attached to them. But that doesn't mean I'm not like romantically attracted to people in general. Anyway, like I said, most of the time I just shorten that to bi or pan and people understand what I'm talking about. So all of this, I mean, I'm 28 now, and all of this has taken me a while to figure out. And like I said, I'm still working on it. I still have some like gender dysphoria sometimes with my body, and I do drag, which may or may not have some sort of connection to it. I mean, I like just performing in general, but like I occasionally perform as a drag king, and I really, really like it. But I also sometimes feel like, I don't know, I've heard other assigned female at birth people talk about how they feel guilty for wanting to grab a slice of male privilege, you know, by like being more masculine, and I don't know. It's very complicated. On top of which, I really like makeup, and I work at a makeup store, and too long didn't read is it's complicated, but we'll all get through this together. I've told my parents about all of this before, and they don't really get it, but they don't like hate it either, so. Alright, for toner, I either use, it says seaweed cleansing lotion, and it's mostly that, but it's also like bits and pieces of other toners that were left over, and I just poured them in together. Sometimes I use this. I also just use the Mario Badescu Rose Water Facial Spray sometimes. I'll use that today, I think. And then if I have zits, which I do, my mom buys tea tree oil in like a big glass jar on Amazon, and I just steal it and put it in this little hotel shampoo bottle. And bot treat. I get zits here because I blow my nose a lot. I have allergies like year round practically. And along my hairline. It's very annoying. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. I have a facial oil here by Botanics. It's a rose hip facial oil. I get dry here, so if I'm going to put on a facial oil, that's where I put it. I put like 2 drops or 3 drops on my hand, and then just sort of pat it in. And then after this, I use the Pure Soak It Up moisturizer, or my friend gave me an H2O Plus, I think it's called, like hydrating treatment that I like, so it's a little tiny tube. Although once I finish it, I might go back and get more because it's pretty good. So yeah, that's how I take off my makeup. And that's my thoughts on my gender and sexual identity. Happy Pride, and fuck the police.